are listening to a podcast of The Lizz Brown Show.
I think I'm hearing revolution in the air.
Good evening. My name is Lizz Brown, and I am here tonight to express my concern about what is happening in the city of St. Louis in the public schools. It is unfortunate that we have to come together tonight to express what we have been talking about for the last 4 years. It is unfortunate that we have to come here tonight and say, even though Ken King is not here, this is directed to him. 300 people, over 300 people 3 years ago got on buses and went up to Jefferson City and told Ken King, do not allow an uncertified, uneducated, uncaring, incompetent man run our school district. We told him that 3 years ago, and we were met with a resounding silence. The same silence that Ken King expressed when our district plummeted 26 accreditation points under Francis Slay and his cronies. We told Ken King said nothing when we lost our accreditation points. Ken King said nothing when schools were closed on North St. Louis and not closed anyplace else. Ken King said nothing when parents were not asked to input into these decisions. Ken King said nothing when Bill Roberti squandered millions of our dollars. Ken King was silent during the process. We are not here, and I want to read this right. The future of our children, we're not here tonight about the future of our children. We are here, this is not a discussion about what are the best practices. We are here for one reason and one reason only, because of politics. That's why we are here. We are here because there are hundreds of millions of dollars in the St. Louis public school budget, and the politicians, the incompetent politicians that ran our district into the ground and lost all those accreditation points, want complete and absolute control over that money. We need to be clear. The citizens that are here tonight that have taken their time out to come and speak to you are saying one simple thing. Keep your hands off our district.
6 months after 18-year-old Michael Brown was shot and killed by a Ferguson police officer, the U.S. Justice Department finds that the Ferguson Police Department has a pattern of bias against its black residents in violation of the 14th Amendment. According to the Justice Department report, between 2012 and 2014, African Americans made up 67% of the population of Ferguson, but they accounted for 85% of all vehicle stops, 90% of all citations, and 93% of all arrests. In 88% of use of force cases, force was used against black people. The full report, which will be released tomorrow, also includes as evidence emails with racist jokes written by police and court employees on their official work email accounts. Joining me now, Lizz Brown, a criminal defense attorney and a columnist for the St. Louis American newspaper, and MSNBC's Tremaine Lee. Lizz Brown, your reaction to the Justice Department report?
Well, I think that if we simply unpack one of those racist jokes that you referred to, I think we can get a sense of exactly what the Justice Department report is going to say. One of the jokes, the punchline, the heinous punchline, was that an African-American woman terminated her pregnancy and she was rewarded with $3,000 by Crime Stoppers. That was a joke that was passed along by police officers and other court officials. So basically what this police institution was saying is that African American people, women, give birth to criminals. And that is exactly what African Americans have been saying, that the police department, the institution, practices discrimination upon them based upon their color. I mean, think about it. It's an all-white police department. talking about African American women giving birth to criminals. It's heinous, and it is exactly what the problem is within Ferguson and the surrounding region.
There's so many aspects about this, and Liz, let's talk to you, because goodness knows you're on the ground there and getting a sense of what people are saying and how the reaction to the apology, non-apology, the hands up, don't shoot gesture at the game, how that went over. It makes me wonder if there's a sense that, you know, this was a tone-deaf kind of comment and stance to be having at a time when healing is supposed to be the job one.
Well, I really think that we need to have a larger discussion about what the Rams organization, what the Rams players are being asked to apologize for. What is it that they did that was something that was worthy of an apology? And I think that we also have to analyze it from the fury of this police officers association, a largely white association, I would add. In fact, in St. Louis, we have two different police officers association, an African American police officers association, the Ethical Society, and the largely white police officers association. And the rage that was expressed by the head of this white police officers association is stunning. And you have to ask, as a citizen, as an observer, if you're this angry about players holding their hands up in a free nation, then how do you respond to people on the ground, citizens on the ground, who hold their hands up? What do they receive from you? What kind of treatment do those people receive from this police department? Where does your fury about this come from? I don't understand, except to say that you feel somehow that you should be able to tell people, certain people, how they are supposed to act. I don't understand. This is a deep and almost ancient rage that's being directed at these football players.
Who has the credibility locally to make that kind of ask in this community right now? Who had that kind of credibility coming into this crisis, and who is earning that kind of credibility by being a leader, by being a trustworthy leader, now as we are on day 9 of this crisis and presumably heading into day 10. Joining us now is Lizz Brown. She's an attorney and columnist for the St. Louis American. Ms. Brown, thank you very much for being with us. It's nice to see you.
Thank you for having me again, Rachel.
So who would you say is the leadership, the trusted leaders, the trusted institutions in this community at a time when leadership seems like it's sorely needed?
I think that we have to start the conversation with the observation that prior to what has happened in Ferguson, there's been a leadership void. There has been a leadership void politically. We have one African-American elected official in the Ferguson area. There's been a political void with respect to organizations reaching out and connecting with young people. There's been a political void in the sense that citizens have pulled themselves out of the political process. So there's a void for leadership in this community. And I think that some of the things that we're seeing on the ground right now is a reflection of the fact that there is a void. And then what happens when you have a void? Well, you have some people that may want to jump in and fill the void. And the question becomes, should those be the people that are jumping in to address this? Have they earned the credibility? Have they made the connection? Have they worked collaboratively with any other organizations? Those are the questions that we have to ask before we even deem anyone a leader or a non-leader.
This seems to be the reason I wanted to have Frank on, and it's not something I really like doing, is that there is this kind of there's ripples of something dark and ugly that I've started to see in social media around folks in the St. Louis area that I worry about in advance of what's coming down the pike. And so much of the attention has been on, quote, the protesters getting violent. And it doesn't seem to me that the ugliness is necessarily coming from those quadrants, or certainly not from those quadrants exclusively.
Well, I think that what we really have to have a discussion about, Chris, is who sets the tone? What tone has been set? And I would charge that the tone has been set that would allow for a racist organization like the Klan to feel comfortable in recruitment. And what is the tone that's been set? The tone is that the tone that has been set is that African American, largely peaceful African American protesters and activists need to have a response, a military response to them. It's almost like they've taken a page and twisted it out of The Untouchables, where he says that, you know, if you bring a rock, we'll bring a tank. That's the response that has been to the largely African-American protesters. So you set the tone that these are people that we need to respond to in this type of way. When you have a chief of police in St. Louis that's racially profiling people that commit crimes as black on black crime, what does that tell? What is that saying? That's saying that crime has a face, and the face is an African-American face, and you don't have to worry about the crime because it's just black folks hurting other black folks. So when we set the tone that a certain group of people responds in this lawless type of way, and that we have to respond to them in a militaristic type of way, you open the door for an organization, a racist organization like the Klan, to come in and take advantage of that.
So you think the way that the tone that has been set by officials so far, who have been, by what they're saying, I'm going to talk to Chief Dotson in just a moment, they're saying they are trying to be calm, they're trying to urge people to be peaceful, that just to follow their First Amendment rights and not use violence. What is wrong? Well, you think they're sending a tone of suspicion?
Well, let's unpack the governor's response, or the governor's press conference. 1,000 people. Why are you saying 1,000 people? What you can take out of that is that that's what we need to respond to.
Right.
Peaceful protesters. Protesters haven't shot and killed anyone. Protesters haven't harmed people. So why are we responding to them? Because it's these types of protesters. You're setting the tone that these types of people need to be responded to in this way. And that opens the door for the Klan to go in and to recruit people. Right. I lay it at the feet of law enforcement, how they've prosecuted this case, how they've responded to peaceful protesters. I lay it at their feet. This is their fault.
Lizz Brown, thank you very much. And joining me now is St. Louis Police Chief Sam.
Hearing revolution in the air, tell me, brother.